Hello, everyone. Welcome to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network. We are on newsstreamingnetwork.com, home of Going Solo Media and Going Bold Media. And we want to thank you so much for joining us here tonight on the Going Solo with Cece show. I am your host, Cece Shatz. I'm the Doyenne of Relationship Building. I am a divorce, dating, and a life coach. And we're going to have a lot of fun tonight because we're going to talk about something different, something that's really important. And we're going to learn something tonight, which I always love doing. I love learning things as we go along. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up our guest right away because I think it's very important to go ahead and bring her up. And it is a delight to have her. Hello, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
It is great having you. Susan Salenger is an author, researcher behind the Sidelined, How Women Can Navigate a Broken Healthcare System. And men, of course, you know that any topic we have, even though it might be directed towards women, you can learn a great deal from it. So don't think twice about watching the show and listening to what we have, because I think it's very important. Because this book, Sidelines, examines the many ways in which women and maybe men manage and sometimes mismanage our healthcare. And this is so important. I am from Florida, so we deal a lot with healthcare here in the seniors. And so I think that this topic is very, very important. But first of all, let's ask Susan how and why she decided to write a book like this. And we'll let you tell us a little bit more about yourself and why you wrote a book like this.
Well, it was kind of a journey, and it's serendipitous in a sense. Many years ago, at this point, I feel like it's 100 years ago, I agreed to have some surgery that I knew I didn't need. I absolutely was positive I didn't need it, and yet here I was agreeing to it anyway. It was just exploratory surgery. They did the surgery. Everything was fine. I was right. I hadn't needed it. And I wondered at the time, I was really angry with myself, but, life goes on. So then like 40 years later, I was in business with my husband and we sold our business. And I went back to school. I retired for maybe 3 seconds. It didn't work for me at all. So I went to school and took some classes. And in one of the classes, I did a project on women that had had hysterectomies. And many of the women I interviewed had thought that their surgery was unnecessary and they weren't sure why they agreed to it. So, of course, that triggered my memory. And I just began to wonder how, as women, we make medical decisions and how many of us really agree to things that we really are not sure that we need, or maybe even positive, like I was, that we don't need. So I interviewed about 60 women and with different diseases. And then discovered, tried to find some things they had in common and some of the things they shared, regardless of the disease. I was interested in their behavior, not in the disease itself. That's not my field. But anyway, so I found a bunch of things that they did have in common, such as they put themselves last, they hesitate to get second opinions, et cetera, et cetera. So it was really kind of a journey that took me quite a while and then I discovered I was a writer, which I absolutely loved. It's interesting. My husband and I had been in the film business for years. We made business films and I wrote the scripts, but I never thought of myself as a writer. I thought of myself as a businesswoman. And then when I went back to UCLA and they all told me how lovely my writing was, that I think also was sort of the stimulus for writing a book. So it was an interesting journey and totally unexpected. This is a whole new career for me at the age of, I started the book when I was like 70. So, and now I'm 80, so 81.
That's truly amazing. It's really amazing. And it goes to show you that often we have gifts that we don't use, we're not even aware of it. And so it's important. And I love what you were saying about how, and we're going to talk about women here tonight. So guys, just have a listen, and maybe if it relates to you, go ahead and take heed. But, I think it is true that a lot of times women, we will just do whatever the doctors say, okay, the doctor says do this. All right, we'll do it, because we don't really understand our body. And frankly, we're very busy because, we have families, kids, whatever. And we're not feeling well. And all we really want to do is get better because we need to keep going at a fast pace. And so women will tend to just turn that information over and just say, okay, well, whatever you say.
Right.
And it's a shame because I do feel that a lot of us probably do, get procedures done that maybe is not necessary. So how can we go about trying to be a little bit more informed, as we move forward in our lives from now on?
Well, I think the most important chapter in the book is on second opinions, and
Mhm.
men should listen to this too, because they also hesitate to get second opinions. I think that women hesitate perhaps more than men do, but it's certainly a universal problem, and particularly for women. We've been brought up to be nice, to be social. We don't want to hurt the doctor's feelings. We don't want to be rude. After all, the doctor knows best. We haven't been to medical school. I mean, there's a whole bunch of reasons that women, and I'm sure men as well, hesitate to get that second opinion. We feel it's confrontational, and actually it isn't. And I want to say two things about that. Number one, I was on the podcast with the doctor, and she said, for example, that she loves it when her patients get a second opinion. One reason is it confirms what her diagnosis is, and it makes her more comfortable. And secondly, if there's ever a medical malpractice problem, she has some backup. So she felt that it really helped her. But I think what people don't understand is how many diseases are out there, like 40, 50,000 different diseases. And many of them have similar symptoms. So for the doctor, a diagnosis is not an easy thing. I mean, if you break your leg and you have leg pain, that's not that tricky. But for the rest of it, it's really looking for a needle in the haystack. So many diseases have the same symptoms. And so I think particularly if you have something that if you get a diagnosis that's serious, or you have to undergo a treatment like a hysterectomy that's irreversible or could do damage, you really need a second opinion. I don't care if you're male, female, however you identify, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think that's great advice because I don't think we do that enough,
No, we don't.
and we don't, a lot of us don't really know how to even go about doing that. And our insurance companies will allow us to do that. So just contact your insurance company.
Yes.
And maybe find someone still within the program, within the
Right.
thing. And then you can go and get a second opinion. So that would be very important. I also know because I helped take care of my dad. And his medications, he had an abundance of medications he was taking at one time. And I was talking to the doctor about that. And I said, I just can't see where, all of these medications, I realize that they're doing something to help him, but I know that they have to be also hurting him, And so how can we start minimizing some of these medications that is going to play a big factor in later on in his life, hurting his liver and his kidneys and, all of those kind of things.
Yeah.
And so we started really working towards that, minimizing the medications that he took. So what would you say about something like that?
Well, I think in terms of medications, I think the first thing that's really important to do is to make a list of them. The list the medications you take, the frequency that you take it, whether it's weekly, daily, whether it's an injection or whether it's oral, what the dosage is, and take that to your doctor. The first thing you want to do is make sure that there's somebody managing your medications, because frequently what happens is you take a medication A and then you have to take medication B to handle the side effects of medication A, et cetera. It goes on from there. So I think the first thing is to be sure that somebody is in charge of your medications and they know, for example, that you're not taking one that interferes or conflicts with another. And then I think the other thing to do, and the most important part of my book, and this is for men, women, whomever, is there's a resource section at the back of my book, and it tells you how to do your own research. I've done the research for you. So if you want to look up your medications, which I strongly recommend, I use drugs.com a lot, but I think there's several suggestions of reliable websites that you can go, and you can look up each medication, see what other medications counteract it, what the side effects are, what the normal dosage is it usually prescribed for your particular disease, So you go in armed with information. I mean, it's easy to do. You just go to whatever website you choose. One of the ones in my book, I want you to go to reliable websites. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And truly, you can be your own advocate. Let me just tell you a really quick story about drugs and how important it is to do your research. I've never had any pain. Well, now I'm beginning to get arthritis, but I'm 81, so put that aside. Basically, I've never had any pain. And I woke up one day with a sore thumb. I mean, no big deal. But it lasted about 6 weeks. And I decided it probably was bone cancer because that's just who I am. So I went to the doctor and she said, no, you have arthritis. Don't worry about it. Here's a pill to make the pain go away. And I'm on Lexapro. At the time I was on Lexapro for depression. And I said, well, gee, is it going to interfere with the Lexapro at all? And she said, no, not at all. You're fine. All right. Well, so I go home, and because I'm a researcher, I looked it up, and she was 99% right. Most people that take Lexapro and whatever this medication was do just fine. There's no problem. But 1% get a brain bleed. Well, I had to really weigh the risks and the benefits. I mean, it's a thumb, and I'm thinking to myself, I've got 9 other fingers. I can manage if it gets much worse. And I don't want to risk a brain bleed. So I threw out her prescription and didn't take it. But it sometimes, even when it's 1%, you have to make a personal decision. Maybe if I'd been a tennis player, it would have been more important to me to take the risk. I mean, benefits and risks are personal. But the research, I'm awfully glad I double checked, because it's a hell of a risk for, on a pain level of 2 and a thumb. I mean, truly.
Yeah. Oh, I can understand that. Certainly understand that. Also, I want to say, and I know we hear it all the time, don't take other people's prescriptions. And I'll just share with you a story that happened just here recently to a good friend of mine. Is she was feeling bloated, right? Had a bit of water weight on her. She's trying to lose weight. She's going on vacation, going to Italy. She's excited about that. So she wanted to get rid of some of this water weight, right? And her sister gave her a water pill. She said, here, take this water pill. The doctor prescribed for me. Take this water pill. Her other sister said, whoa, wait a minute. Let me look at that water pill. So she looked at the water pill. She looked it up on one of the sites, and come to find out, within the water pill was also high blood pressure medicine, which she shouldn't have been taking, right? She didn't need to take high blood pressure medicine.
Right.
It might have affected her totally differently.
Right.
So then she decided, of course, I'm not going to take this because this has got more in it than what I really need. I really just need a little water pill. And I said, well, you can go to get Midol or something like we used to take in the olden days, with the with our periods, to release the water weight that we gain when we're having our periods. Like I said, just get Midol, and that's mild and it's over the counter. It shouldn't really affect you or anything like that.
Your story is exactly what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That hits the nail on the head.
Yeah. And that often happens. People share medications because, number one, it's expensive to go to the doctor, right? If they're every time you go, they have a copayment or they have something like that. Medications are expensive. I mean, there was one medication that I'm on that since I had COVID, I have developed AFib, right? And so now I'm on a blood thinner. And I'm thinking, why do I need to take a blood thinner? I live in Florida, for heaven's sakes. My blood couldn't be any thinner with the hot weather here, right? I mean, I'll bleed out like crazy. And so I just thought, and then I went to go get it, and, it's like a $200 pill, but my insurance covered most of it. So it's still $45 a month.
Oh my gosh.
So I do it. So it's still like, a hefty fee a month. And so I thought, I'm not going to take it. So then I had a little episode. And then when they found out I wasn't taking the blood thinner, they got really upset. My doctor got very upset. You've got to take this blood thinner. So sometimes we don't always know what's best for us.
Right.
So we do have to find out why we have to take certain things. What will happen if we don't take it?
And let me interrupt and say you also need to find out, if you are going to quit a medication with your doctor's permission, how to wean yourself off of it. Like Lexapro, which I'm weaning myself off of now, you do very gradually. I was on 5 milligrams, and now then I was on 2.5. And just this morning, I'm going to start taking my 2.5 every other day. I have a friend who just went off it right immediately, and it's not healthy to do that. I mean, he had real side effects.
Right, right. So, I mean, sometimes we should not play doctor.
Right.
And we do. I know we tend to do that. We should not do that.
Right.
And we just need to have more information on what we do and really be honest with the doctor. When I said to the doctor, well, gosh, it's like $45 a month, I mean, I can do quite a lot with $45.
Yeah.
And finally she said, well, you can't when you're dead. So
and funerals are far more than $45.
I got, okay, well, she's got a point,
Oh, I love it.
I know, but we just, sometimes we just don't, we want to make our own decisions at times. So we need to be informed. We definitely need to be informed. But it's crazy. So don't take other people's medication. And if you're not going to follow your doctor's advice, then find out why and figure out what's, how that's going to affect you. So, yeah. Now, what about insurances and things? Like we were talking about the healthcare system. A long time ago, I didn't realize that you had to see a doctor that's within the environment of your healthcare, And one time I went to the doctor and they sent me for some blood work. I went, didn't think anything about it. And then they said, well, you're out of network. And so I got this huge bill, right? So it's important to know what, that you're in network and ask those questions, am I in network when I'm doing these, whatever these tests are, procedures are?
Yeah, I don't know much about insurance. First of all, I'm over 65, so I have Medicare. Yeah. And I think just talking about the price of drugs, I think I owed 50 cents for the last prescription I filled, something like that. Medicare is wonderful. So I really don't know much about it, but I do know that you have to be in network. And some of them will honor second or even third opinions, and some won't. So I don't know, you have to navigate that with your insurance company. And I suspect if you have a problem, they'll have an ombudsman that you would want to call. Right. They will help you.
Yeah,
that's good. I'm guessing because I truly don't know. I've never had the issue, so I don't know.
Right. And every insurance company is different.
Yes.
So you just don't know. So you've got to ask questions. So the biggest takeaway for people, as I want them to know, is that to ask those questions. Ask. If you don't know the answer, then keep asking till you feel comfortable with the answer you're given.
Right. Absolutely. And truly, that's the message of the book, is advocate for yourself and ask whether you're a man, a woman, or somewhere in between, whatever. But just be sure that you ask the questions, that you get the answers, that you understand what you're told. Because, nobody knows you like you do. And as I said earlier, diagnosis, etc. I mean, it's a risky business. There's so many diseases out there. And incidentally, when I think I said 40 or 50,000 diseases out there, those are only the ones we know about. I mean, COVID makes it 50,001, there's always a new one right on the horizon. So.
Right. And then one thing that the doctor did tell me when last time I went about COVID is that, maybe we don't have the scare of COVID now, but we have other diseases that are right around the corner that are coming in as quickly as,
Yes.
There is. And the doctors and all, they're trying to gear up as quickly as they can to face some of these diseases. So just know that, it's important to keep, really keep with your healthcare provider to see what's going on and ask questions about it. I guess we just probably can't say it enough in this episode, is to ask questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, and I'm a firm believer in that. And one of the things I totally recommend is whenever you do go to the doctor, have a list, write out a list of questions so you know what you want to cover. And when I say write it out, I really mean write it out. You can put it in your phone, but don't hold it in your head. Because if you're like me, you'll get so anxious when you go that you'll forget half of what you wanted to cover. And also, when you write out a list, the same doctor that was talking about the medical malpractice, she said that she loves it when patients come in with a list because it gives her a chance to quickly review it, see if they've prioritized it correctly. I mean, if you have one patient, she was telling me, last on his list was a mole on his back. Well, that was the first thing she would have looked at if she had known. So it gives her a chance. It would have given her a chance to rearrange the list, and I think that that's really important. It's and you help focus the visit. You know what you want to cover. The doctor knows what you want to cover. Problem solved. You're both on your way.
That's a great advice. And those that are taking care of a parent or someone, it's a great idea to make your list and then go over, if you can, with your family member or whoever that you're taking care of to see if they want to add something else to that list, because they're the ones that are feeling what they're feeling, right? They're going through certain things. And so there may be something you want to add additional to that list. Because I tell you, I used to take my dad in and first thing out of his mouth, even though like he could have been running a fever and, sicker than all get out, which is why we're there. And, they'd say, "How you doing today, Al?" And he'd say, "I'm just fine."
Right. I do that too. And then I want to shoot myself,
I said, "We're here because you're sick, Dad. We're here." It's like, but the doctor would just laugh, and and I would do that. I would make a list because I want to make sure I covered everything.
Right.
I haven't forgotten anything. And, it's important. And again, I can't say enough about the side effects of different drugs and to ask those questions about what are the side effects when they prescribe, medication, what are the side effects to that? They give you a pamphlet and you can read that, but it'd be nice to know before they prescribe it, in case you want to switch to something else,
Sure. No, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And for example, for those people on statins who also have arthritis, I would check that out. I was on a statin for about a week, and since I've developed this arthritis, joint pain can be one of the side effects of a statin. Well, if you've already got arthritis, it's not exactly the right drug to take. I don't know yet what I'm going to do. I'm waiting to see. I have to talk to him. But I stopped taking the statins with his permission. And we're waiting for the joint pain to go away, but we'll see if it does or not.
I hope that does for you, because I know I have arthritis myself, so I know exactly what you're talking about and how difficult it is. And
not thrilled. I'm really not thrilled.
If someone would have told us, right, when we were younger, that we wouldn't have believed them anyhow. But if they would have told us when we were younger what being older is like, I thought we were going to be retired and we're going to be able to go on vacation, be on a permanent vacation and just live life up. Instead, we're hobbling around with arthritis.
My mother-in-law used to say getting old is not for sissies. And that's true.
I know, but we're thankful to be alive.
For sure.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about the book, because I'm kind of excited about Sidelined. So again, it's Sidelined: How Women Can Navigate a Broken Healthcare System. And guys out there, if you're listening to the show, I think it's worth a read, because you're going to go through the same broken healthcare system. So I think definitely it might help you to navigate some of that too. So tell us a little bit more about your book and where you think, some of the, and you don't have to tell us all because we want people to buy the book, but tell us a little bit more about, the highlights of the book.
Well, the first highlight, and this is really more about women, this first chapter, which is that women put themselves last. And in fact, there was a research study done. Excuse me, my allergies are acting up.
That's okay.
But anyway, there was a research study done, and women were given a list of 5 things to prioritize. Who or what would they take care of first? And first, almost all of the women said they'd take care of their children. Second, they'd take care of their pets. I loved that. I really did. Third, unlike you, they'd take care of their elderly parents. Fourth, they take care of their significant others. And, last but not least, they take care of themselves. And so much so that a lot of times women will put off going to the doctor, even though they don't feel well, because they feel so much responsibility to their job or to their family or whatever the hell it is. And they're busy. You brought that up earlier. We have lunches to make and families to take care of. It's hard to do everything, and putting yourself first can be very difficult, but I think it's critical. And the reason I say that is because I think it's really hard to take care of others when you're feeling lousy. If you don't feel good and you're irritable and you have no energy and you're not eating and you feel like crap, and then you have to go take care of other people, it's much harder than if you're feeling pretty good yourself. So I think if I was laughing because even the airlines tells you, put on your own mask before you put on your kids. And I think that's true. Well said. So that's really, that kind of is one of the major differences in the men and women. Men don't do that. They tend to put their jobs first, their families too, but not quite in the same way. And I found that women talk differently to doctors. When we go to the doctor, men are much more succinct. They're objective. They either go in like your father and say, I feel fine, or they go in and say, well, I have a sore throat or whatever. Women, and myself included, I'm so guilty of this, will go on and on and on and on and talk about their feelings and their this and their that. And, sometimes the symptoms of the actual illness can get lost in all of this other stuff. So I think while it's important to tell your doctors how your feelings and how everything's affecting you, but by the same time, you want to make sure that it doesn't take over the visit. I think sometimes that's one reason women are frequently told that an illness is all in their heads, because of the way they present the symptoms. Not always. I don't mean it that way at all. But by the same token, it doesn't help what's already a bad situation, which is that doctors do tend to, the whole medical system tends to tell women that it's depression or anxiety, etc. So I think the way we state our issues certainly contributes to that. We talked about second opinions, which I think is so important. And we talked about the doctor visit, which I think, again, it's really important to do your research, have your list of questions, but know where you want to go with it, because that's so important to do. So I read an amazing statistic, which is it says something like only 15% of women, and I think it's more, men are probably a much higher number, but only 15% of women leave the doctor's office with fully understanding what's been said. So that means that 85% of us don't. I mean, that's terrible. You can't leave the doctor's office and not know or understand what they've told you, what you have, what you're going to do, what the prognosis is. I mean, there's a whole bunch of information that you really want to have. So that way you can go home and look it up and see what you think. And incidentally, when I get a diagnosis, one of the things I always ask is, well, what else could this possibly be? I've said things like, well, I know in your experience that, many of the patients that have my symptoms have what you just said, disease X. But is there anything, have they all had it, or is there anything else that could possibly be? And now I have 2 things to go home and look up, or 3. And I think, and that's great, because I really want to know in my own head if I'm comfortable with the diagnosis. So I think that's also very important. I'm trying to think what else I can tell you.
Yeah, I think it's great, because a lot of times too, with women, I think we probably need to talk about the emotional aspect of it, because even though we get sick, and there's a physical part of it, there's a science part of it, right? Because it's medical. But sometimes our emotions will drive what would be the driver for us to be feeling bad, So, let's talk a little bit about that. Did you find that in your research?
Yes, I did. And I actually forgot to mention it. And I'm so glad you brought it up, because one of the things I found, and I think that the thing that surprised me the most, was how ashamed women felt about being ill. I put together a couple of focus groups mostly because I wanted geographic diversity. Since I'm in California, I wanted to spread out. So we
Right.
did it over Zoom. And one of the things I learned in the focus group was how many of the women that participated had never talked with anybody other than their doctor about their illness. And I talked to everybody about anything, so that I was really startled. But they were so ashamed. They all thought it, really what they thought was that it was due to their stress, that they were overstressed. And most of them said this. Or it was somehow their fault. And so that by talking about it, they felt that they were telling the world that they couldn't manage their lives, that they just couldn't handle things. And so they denied themselves the support of having somebody help them, whether it was, I mean, they did tell their doctor, but they didn't go to support groups. They didn't talk to their friends. I was just amazed. In fact, it was really interesting in the group. They were talking back and forth. It was not difficult to facilitate at all because the women were so chatty. They were, oh, you feel that too? Oh, yes, I've had that, that kind of thing. I think shame is one of the greatest contributors to ill health or to poor health. People don't talk about it. They don't go to the doctor. They're terrified, etc. And I think that that's true, whether it's a physical illness, whether it's an emotional illness, whether it's a divorce or widowhood or whatever. Being a recent widow, and it's a very difficult thing when your husband dies or a partner dies. I found that a lot of the people I go out with now, girlfriends, they don't really want to talk about it. Some of them many of them at this age are widowed, and they really just want to have I don't know how to say it, not a nice evening. So do I. I don't mean that I don't, but sometimes it would be nice to say, hey, do you feel lonely sometimes? Do you still cry after 3 years, or your husband's been gone for 5 years? Are you still going to be crying? I mean, I'd love to know these things. So I think that really talking is so important. I really do.
Well, women, we need that emotional support, because we're just that way. We're emotional beings. And so we do need that. And so it's very important to join maybe a support group that in whatever you're dealing with, whether it be divorce or, loss of someone, it's important to do that because our stress level is, it just weighs on us tremendously.
Yes, it does.
And the emotional part of it, believe it or not, is so vital with regards to our health. And I think they're seeing it more and more now, even with men, the emotional, mental part of it. Yeah.
I have a little section in the book on placebos, talking about emotions and health. But for those of you that don't know what a placebo is, it's like nothing. It's fake medicine. I don't know how else to say it. It's a sugar pill or colored water if you're getting an injection. Thomas Jefferson even used to use it. I mean, they go way back. But placebos really help people. And what's fascinating is there was a whole big thing with the American Medical Association. For professional ethics, if you're giving a patient a placebo, you really need to tell them. So the doctor will say something to like, I don't know if this will help you or not. I don't know how they frame it, but the research shows that even when patients know that it's not a real medication, that the placebo helps anyway. And I think that the mind and body are just so connected. Somehow the act of just doing something. And they found that blue pills are better for anxiety, and green are better for something else. And red pills give you energy, and large capsules are better than small capsules. I mean,
oh my God.
It's really the mind-body connection, as you were suggesting, can't be overlooked, and it's critical.
Well, this is great information. I mean, totally great information. Again, we're talking with Susan Salenger. She's the author, researcher behind Sidelined, How Women Can Navigate a Broken Healthcare System. And again, guys, if you're out there listening, please go ahead and get the book because you need to also navigate the broken healthcare system. And so it's called Sidelined. You can buy it right on Amazon. So just go to Amazon and type in the title, or even type in her name, being the author. It's Susan, Susan, and then Salinger is Salenger.
Right.
So that's a name. That's her name. You can type in that as an author, and it'll probably pull right up for you, or
It
put
does.
in Sidelined, see if that comes up. But definitely go to Amazon, get the book. I think it will definitely help you. There's more information in the book that we even begin to touch on here in this show. So yeah, you definitely want to get the book. So tell us a little bit. We have to close out the show. So anything that you think that we might have missed that we want to cover in this episode, anything you want to share in our closing here?
Just how important it is, and I know I said it before, but I'm going to say it again. It's so important to advocate for yourself and to stand up for what you think is right. I'll tell you a quick story because I know we have to go. But my mom was 75 and went in for some knee surgery. Totally, I mean, there wasn't a senile bone in her body. Make a long story short, she was just an outpatient. They gave her some pain pills and sent her home. And within 24 hours, she couldn't remember her name. She couldn't remember she didn't know who was the president. I mean, she was totally out of it. So, of course, we called the doctor and ran back and we said, look, something's going on. And maybe it must be the medication. And he took me aside and said, Sue, you really have to let your parents age graciously. You're making them feel bad. And I said, Steve, nobody gets senile overnight. Something is wrong. And anyway, we went home. My dad and I threw out the medication, and she was fine in 48 hours. But she was allergic to something. And, my point is, I knew that I was right. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that you don't get senile in, 5 minutes. It's ridiculous. And so I think it's so important to advocate for yourself. I'm older now. I would have really argued with him. I didn't then. I was much younger. But now that I've written the book, done my research, and have a few years behind me, I would actually, say a little more to him. But nevertheless, the message of the book is it's your body. You've only got the one, and it's truly your job to take care of it.
Very good advice. And I will tell you, something like that happened to my dad too. He was in the hospital and he was given all kinds of medications and things like that. And luckily my father was really with it. And, but he kept seeing, he told me, he said, I keep seeing bugs on the walls, all kinds of spiders.
Yes.
Bugs on the wall. And then he told me, he said, I think it's a medication. And they won't stop giving it to me.
I know somebody else that happened to. They saw bugs on the wall.
Yeah. And so I said, wait a minute. He wasn't like this before we brought him in here.
Right.
He's like this now because you're giving him something. And they wouldn't listen. And I said, we're out. We're checking out, because he was pretty much towards the end of the stay there anyhow. And so we checked him right out, took him home. Well, you can't do that. I say, yes, we can. We can do that.
Exactly. And I mean, even with this arthritis that I now have that we've been talking about, I'm going for an MRI on Tuesday because I want to be sure it's arthritis. Do I think it is? Yes. And people are saying to me, well, you're 81, stuff happens. Also, yes. But I don't want to be a victim of my own ageism. And there may be something else going on, and I really need to know. And everybody's laughing at me, but if I'm right, I hope I'm not right, but my point is I'm taking charge. It's my body, and I don't like having the pain.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're smart. I think you're smart to ask questions and do what you feel comfortable with.
Right.
And for sure. And that's what we're trying to encourage everyone here is to take control of your healthcare. Know that, the doctors can only do so much, and they do try their very best. We're not saying they're bad doctors or anything like that.
Oh, gosh, no.
Or hospitals or anything. But you got to think about all the different diseases out there, all the different things they have to deal with. And so, let's help them by being a little bit more assertive ourselves and have a clearer understanding of what's going on, not only in our bodies, but what we're taking, how we're reacting to it, those kind of things. So I think your book is going to be great. So I think people should definitely read it. It's called Sidelined: How Women Can Navigate a Broken Healthcare System, by Susan Salenger, and her last name is spelled Salenger. Just look it up. She's the author researcher of this wonderful book. You can find it right on Amazon. So go on Amazon and get the book. So I know your allergies are really bothering you tonight, but that's quite all right. But thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you very much.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. Thanks again.
Oh, it is so super. Well, everyone, you're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. I want to thank you all for being with us here tonight. We are the new streamingnetwork.com, home of Going Solo Media and Going Bold Media. You can find us on Roku now. We have our own app, and we're pretty excited about it. Just go to Roku, look up on the search bar, type in New Streaming Network, and it should pop right up. You should be able to see our logo, which looks similar to this, and just click on it. And we've got a lot of great shows on there. We live stream on there now. So we're really excited about that. So we hope that you will join us. So again, please like, share, enjoy, comment, and subscribe, because we love to hear from you. And we want to thank you so much for listening to us. I am Cece Shatz, the Doyenne of Relationship Building, and you are listening to Going Solo with Cece. So I'll catch you next time. But everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful evening, rest of your day, whatever time zone we're in, and whenever you're listening to it, just know that we appreciate you. Thank you very much.